So, having recently seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in theaters, I figured I should go back and rewatch the original Sonic the Hedgehog, which is something that I normally do for movies that have sequels or new installments coming out. I'll go back and I will rewatch all the other films in a franchise beforehand, both to get myself in the mood for the new movie, but also to remind me of the story that has come so far, in case I forget any details from the previous films. And I'm glad I did, because I remember really enjoying this movie a lot when it first came out. And rewatching it again in anticipation of Sonic 2, I still had a lot of fun with this movie. So of course, the Sonic the Hedgehog live-action movie is based off the famous and sometimes infamous Sonic the Hedgehog video game franchise. Though it is important to keep in mind that these films are not following the video game continuity. They are instead set in their own separate timeline, their own separate universe, and they simply take characters and plot elements from the games and then rework them into the continuity of these films. And in that way, these movies are surprisingly similar to the Sonic X anime that came out in the early 2000s. And I'm okay with that. I really enjoyed the Sonic X anime. I really like how they took the plot of the games and reworked it into its own thing for the show. I have a lot of nostalgia for that show. Waking up on Saturday mornings as a kid to watch it, along with other shows like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, etc. You know, good times. And these films really do remind me of that show. And similar to Sonic X, the plot of the movie starts off with Sonic the Hedgehog ending up on Earth, our real-life Earth. And he was sent there by a character named Longclaw, which is a owl warrior, and I believe that this is a brand new character exclusive to the films. I don't ever recall seeing her in the video games, and I'm not sure if she's in the comics or not. I'm not really that familiar with the Sonic comics, to be honest, but I don't ever remember seeing this character in a video game. If she is from the comics, if she's some other form of Sonic media, you can correct me down in the comments section below. But as far as I know, Longclaw is a brand new character exclusive to the continuity of the movies. But anyways, getting back to the plot. So Longclaw sends Sonic to Earth as a child to protect him from the Echidna tribe, which will be very important in the sequel because, as we know, Knuckles the Echidna is Sonic's rival in the second movie. But it's not really important to this film for now. But to keep himself safe, Sonic grows up on Earth, hiding away from the world in the small town of Green Hill, which of course is a shout out to Green Hill Zone, the first level of the first Sonic video game, and probably the most famous level in the Sonic franchise period. But even though he is supposed to be hiding, he keeps an eye on the people in the town and grows fond of them, particularly Tom and Maddie, a couple living in Green Hill, where Tom is also a police officer. And so you can tell that Sonic is really lonely, having never directly interacted with these people, and he wants a family. Particularly, he wants a family with Tom and Maddie. One day, his loneliness comes to a head when at a baseball field, Sonic finds himself playing alone. He becomes so upset that he just keeps running and running and running, obviously a metaphor for running away from his problems. And he runs so fast that there is this huge surge of energy that knocks out power in Green Hill. And I think they also say it knocked out power in a large part of the United States, if I'm not mistaken. And as we learn later on, this surge of energy also goes flying out into space, which again is important for the sequel, but not so much for this movie. Obviously, this surge of power catches the attention of the government. They go to investigate, and they end up bringing in an infamous scientist to aid in their efforts, which of course is none other than Dr. Robotnik, aka Dr. Eggman. So now Sonic is in danger of being found, and so to try and escape from Robotnik and the government, Sonic prepares to use these magic rings, which can teleport him to wherever he wants to go, to teleport to a mushroom planet where he believes he can be safe. Now, obviously, this is how the film takes the rings from the Sonic video games and implements that element into the movie continuity, and I do think it's a very creative use of the rings, because the rings are obviously, you know, a staple of the Sonic series. They're a collectible. They also serve as Sonic's life force in the games. You know, as long as you have one ring, you can survive. But you know, how would you implement that into a movie? And I think taking the rings and turning it into this bigger, element, this bigger item of importance to the overall story, I think was a very creative way to go about it. So, and they do a lot of that in these movies. They'll take certain elements from the games and they'll rework them in a way that it works better for, the plot of a film. And the way they do it, I think, is very creative. So good on them for that. Getting back to the story, before Sonic can follow through with his escape plan, Eggman's robots begin to close in on him, so he runs to the only other place he finds safe, which is Tom and Maddie's house. Now at the time, Maddie is in San Francisco, because Tom got a job offer to move to San Francisco and Maddie went to check out the city in advance. So Tom ends up finding Sonic hiding in his house, and just as Sonic is about to use one of his rings, he sees that Tom is wearing a San Francisco t-shirt. And just as Sonic is using the ring, he shouts out San Francisco, causing a portal to San Francisco to open up in the floor. The bag of rings, they fall through the portal and they land on top of a building in San Francisco. And now in order to escape to the Mushroom Planet, Sonic has to get to San Francisco and retrieve his rings. And that sets up the main plot of this movie, which is Tom and Sonic on the run from the government and Eggman trying to get to San Francisco to get the rings so that Sonic can escape capture. And it's a fun ride. The dynamic between Sonic and Tom is very charming. There are a lot of comedic scenes, a lot of legitimately funny moments, and some very heartwarming moments as well. All the while, Eggman is in hot pursuit, and let me tell you, going into this movie, originally I was very concerned as to whether Jim Carrey could actually pull off Robotnik. Not because Jim Carrey isn't a great actor, I think he's actually one of the best, but I didn't know if he was the right fit for the character, and boy, was I pleasantly surprised. I love Jim Carrey in this role. His Robotnik is freaking hilarious. Every scene he was in was fantastic. His jokes were so funny. His superior attitude and the way he talks down to people creates a character that you really just love to hate. But you want to see more of him. You always want to see more of him. Every scene he ends, he chews the scene so well. It's so good. I truly believe that the casting of Jim Carrey as Eggman was one of those lightning in the bottle castings, like Robert Englund as Freddy. I have a hard time picturing really anyone else in the role of a live action Eggman now. That's how good his performance is. I think this is probably one of the best characters that Jim Carrey has done, in all honesty. So finally, Sonic and Tom make it to San Francisco, and Maddie ends up joining them to retrieve the rings. Also, Maddie's sister really dislikes Tom, and by extension doesn't care much for Sonic either. Maddie's sister isn't really all that important in this movie, but she does play a larger role in the sequel, so I thought I would mention her briefly here. Just to kind of set up her role in that next movie, and my discussion about her in the next review of the Sonic 2 movie. Also, her daughter, JoJo, Maddie's niece, is the one who gives Sonic his iconic red and white shoes in a scene that, I'm not gonna lie, really pulled at the heartstrings. I really enjoyed this scene. Really sweet character. But anyways, as Sonic is about to escape, Robotnik shows up for the final battle. And this was such a fun fight. You have Sonic using the rings to chase and fight Eggman to different locations across the globe, so many scenes, and it finally culminates back where it all began in Green Hill. And this is where we see Tom calling out Robotnik for his lack of humanity, because throughout this whole movie, it is shown that Robotnik thinks very little of other people and vastly prefers machines over humans. And of course, Tom says that despite Sonic being an alien, he is way more human than Robotnik could ever be. The battle ends with Eggman being sent through the ring portal to the Mushroom Planet instead of Sonic, seemingly banished there forever, or at least until the sequel. Tom turns down the job in San Francisco and decides to remain in Green Hill, where pretty much he and Maddie adopt Sonic as their son. And finally, Sonic has the family he always wanted. It's a very happy ending, and I felt myself very satisfied with this movie from beginning to end. In today's Hollywood, we don't get a lot of traditional good family films that you can take everyone to and just have a good time, and this felt like such a breath of fresh air. It really did. There was nothing political or divisive in this film. I didn't feel like they were trying to appeal to any particular group of people. No, this just felt like a fun family film that respected the character and legacy of Sonic. And as a Sonic fan, what more could I ask for? Now, of course, there was some sequel teases at the end. We do see Eggman on the Mushroom Planet, now sporting the bald head, the iconic Eggman look, and he's plotting his return. He's clearly going a bit crazy. He's talking to a rock. And then at the very end of the movie, we also see Sonic's number 2 guy from the video games, that of course being Miles Tells Prower. And he shows up in Green Hill, and that's where the film ends. So video game films, you know, they have this reputation for being really, really bad. And let's be honest, when we first saw Nightmare Sonic, yes, that's what I'm calling him, Nightmare Sonic, I thought this film was going to be absolutely terrible. We all did. However, this movie broke the chain and defied expectations a lot. And it was a really, really good film. One of my favorite films in the last few years. But that being said, is Sonic the Hedgehog the best video game film? Find out next time when we talk about the sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But if you want to see that video, then be sure to like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you guys in the next one.